Oh, PSA.
So
PSA is a big
PSA
one too.
on the rise.
Yeah, we got to flip that. We got to reverse that trend quick.
Yeah.
And that's another reason I'd suggest, the TNF alpha and IL-6, because, if PSA is increasing because there is some small cancerous thing growing, if the pro-inflammatory cytokines are increasing over time too, that's another signal that something is going on that we want to get on top of, faster, sooner than later.
Absolutely. PSA free, same.
We can even look at the doubling time for your total PSA, not the free, but if you go up to the
Oh,
total.
back to total again.
Yeah, so you had values, let's see, the trend line is like 0.8, and then it's, yeah, about double. So that's about double over the past 5 years. I don't know how, I'd have to look that up. I'm not an expert on PSA, even though I'm familiar and have looked at optimal ranges, but I mean, values as low as zero point 0.3 are found in youth, so that would be my target. But the 5 year doubling time, I mean, yours essentially have doubled on average 5 years based on the trend line. So I'd have to look that up and see like risk based on like
Yeah,
how long should it take to double? Should it be 30 years, 50 years? I don't know I just don't know what that is.
that would be interesting to know. Keep me posted.
Yeah.
So yeah, PSA free, percent PSA declining.
Yeah.
So yeah, going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, that is in the wrong direction. I looked that up the other day. It is going in the wrong direction. But it's still relatively high. I think if I remember correctly, like PSA free, percent free being like less than 15% or less than 10% was associated with an increased risk of prostate cancer. So, I mean, yours,
Yeah, this right here is the high mark of my optimal, so I'm quite a bit higher than optimal.
yeah. I'd have to look that up though. I don't want to confuse it. That one is not as memorized. It's still fresh because it's so new.
All right, testosterone gradually declines with aging. Mine's been increasing.
Resisted it, yeah. So that's another interesting one because you haven't gotten leaner over the past 4 years, right?
No.
So testosterone is associated with BMI. Leaner BMI is higher testosterone, and then as BMI increases, testosterone levels drop. So that you haven't gotten leaner, it suggests there's stuff you've added in or are doing that has potentially helped you resist, right? Age-related decline.
I mean, I've heard it claimed that you can't take supplements and increase your testosterone.
Mm.
I think that's wrong. I've actually seen it. I've also seen it in when I run. It seems like when I run, my testosterone increases along with the miles that I put in. So, I mean, so my message to a lot of guys out there, instead of just jumping straight to TRT, try, get up and take a run sometimes, just go get physical. Don't sit so long because that'll drive your T low.
Yeah. Or it could be that you've got, conqueror genetics, where the more active you are, it's good for your testosterone. So
I would be curious to see that. I don't know if they've identified those genes yet, have they?
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. All right, wait, so free testosterone?
Okay, yeah. So now that's terrible. My free testosterone has been quite low because my sex hormone binding globulin is pretty high.
Yeah, so that's a tricky one. I'm in the same boat. Um, I don't know. So same boat with SHBG being high. And there are published studies on free T and all-cause mortality risk, but on the other hand, like Luigi Fontana, who studies like calorie restriction, free T levels drop. And part of his rationale for lower androgen levels in people on CR is that that may be part of the anti-cancer or reduced cancer risk in calorie-restricted animals. So maybe that translates into people. I don't know if that's true. And then SHBG is a tricky one because CR increases it dramatically. Exercise increases it, but not as much as CR. So that's, you're super exercises. So that's probably a component of why yours, maybe higher than most. But on the other side of that, SHBG increases during aging. So there's also something besides, exercising and calorie restriction super high. And then it just increases over time for the average population who's not in that boat, which also that is associated with increased Alzheimer's incidence and metabolic syndrome. So how can those two things, how do you square that circle where,
I don't know.
yeah,
I've actually had people tell me that the fact that I'm low in free testosterone is not necessarily a bad thing.
yeah,
Their way of looking at it was that just means that maybe your cells are uptaking more of it, so it's just not free floating in your serum. Which, I mean, if that's the case, that would be a good thing. I just don't know how you would measure such a thing.
yeah. Oh,
So
wait, so SHBG, let's take a look at that.
I can keep scrolling down. I know it's in here. Oh, pregnenolone. There's my DHT. So that's going in the well, it's going in the wrong direction for aging, but at least it's to me, it's going in the right direction because it's heading toward my optimal.
Yeah,
And I like to keep it low to keep the hair thick. So I'm doing things to try to drive DHT down too. So
nice.
my estradiol, which has been quite high at times. Same with total estrogens. Um, Only because I'm supplementing with pregnenolone and DHEA, which are upstream precursors of both testosterone and estrogen. So to get that high testosterone, I'm going to get high estrogen right along with it. There's just there's no getting one without the other. But then I'm taking things like calcium deglucarate and DIM to try to bind with the estrogens to move them out. Although, estrogens aren't necessarily a bad thing either. Like what, 17 estradiol is a good thing for men, but you can't really be picky with DIM and calcium deglucarate. They just bind to all of it, not the ones you want.
Gotcha.
So,
Yeah.
so here we go. Here's
Yeah.
sex hormone
Not
binding.
not terribly high. I mean,
No, higher
it,
than I want because here's my green optimal down here. And now I'm outside of the reference range.
yeah, but I mean, like I said, when considering that vigorous exercise, like active people, relatively high VO2 maxes have values approximately double the reference range, and then people on CR fourfold higher than, well, not the reference range, but like 120 versus, exercisers, I think if I remember correctly in the paper, is like 60 to 70 for people who are fit and active. So, um, yeah, I'm not too worried about SHBG. The thing is, there's a biological age clock that includes it so that, and that clock is as good as pheno age, but just it includes some different markers like SHBG. So that'd be one where I would look older. But
Hmm.
is it though really, right? Because if it's coming from CR and exercise.
I'm not familiar with that clock. I would love to play with that. How do I
Yeah.
get a hold of that one?
It's longevity tools. If you type in longevitytools.com or in Google
Okay. Yeah, I'll do that.
or
I
longevity.
I can almost guarantee you I'm going to be watching over, both parts of this video myself and taking notes since I haven't been doing that while we've been talking. So
Nice.